My name is Marta Krawczyk, and today I have a pleasure to be a speaker at Malt Academy. I will speak to you about the topic how to introduce Industry 4.0 solution into your company. So let me first start by introducing myself so that you a little bit know my background and maybe know what I will be speaking about. I'm actually a physicist and I specialized in data science. I have 7+ years experience as a technology developer and project leader for production of printed circuit boards and semiconductors. I've been studying solid-state physics at the Technical University of Munich and Business and Technology in Poland. And for the moment, I am working as an expert for evaluation of startups in the area of big data and semiconductor production. I am also a registered freelancer at the portal Malt for the topics of data science and Industry 4.0. So in case you have any questions after the presentation or comments, you can easily reach out to me on the platform. Let me start first by giving you a short agenda about what I'm gonna speak to you today. And in case you have any questions or comments, please write it into the chat. And after the end, at the end of the presentation or during the presentation, I will try to answer them, and Lea also helps and observes the chat. So we will try to clarify every issue. So I will start the presentation by giving you a brief overview about Industry 4.0. I will clarify important terms as there is sometimes a confusion about what Industry 4.0 really means. Then I will move on to the motivation. Why is it worth to introduce Industry 4.0 solution into your company? And of course, what are the main challenges? I will also give you a recommendation for a strategy that I would propose to you. In the third part, I will give you a possibility to classify your company, so where the company is on the Industry 4.0 journey axis. In the main part, I will present you possible solutions to start, also for the beginners as well as for the advanced users. And I will end up with some summary and recommendations. So let me start with a short introduction. So a factory as such can be considered as a black box. Black box is a term where from the outside we are not interested in what's happening in the black box. We are only interested in the input and in the output. And if you consider this in a case of factory, the input can be product requirements, can be simulation results, can be computer-aided design data, so graphical data, and so on and so forth. And the output, as a user, you are interested in a product that's ready, that's tested already and is working. So the idea behind the Industry 4.0 is to make the black box, in this case, the factory, to make it independent of human, and the factory takes care of every process, like orders the needed material, designs the process, tests the ready product afterwards, takes care of all of the internal logistic issues. So this is, of course, a very, very ideal situation of Industry 4.0 smart factory. For the moment, you can also consider factory as a black box. However, there are humans involved. So you can measure how to evaluate how far you are from the smart factory term. I will give you, in a few slides, I will give you some proposal for this. But now let me move to the terms classification. So very often people speak about Internet of Things. What's a thing? In this case, a thing is a device, is a machine that can communicate with other machines in the network. Moreover, the machine can make decisions autonomously based on the data that it collects itself and that it gathers from other machines. So this is the topic of machine-to-machine communication that's involved here in Internet of Things. And there are basically two types of Internet of Things. There's an industrial Internet of Things and consumer Internet of Things. So when it comes to industrial, consumer Internet of Things are all of your mobile phones and other devices that you use, like in a smart home, for example. And then when it comes to industrial Internet of Things, we differentiate the term Industry 4.0. So maybe now you can see my pointer, I just turned it on. Thank you. So when it comes to the term Industry 4.0, the term Industry 4.0 and smart factory can be used interchangeable. So smart factory is used rather in the English area, whether in German-speaking countries, people rather speak about Industry 4.0. However, this term is used in English-speaking countries more and more as well. Okay, so I hope that now this is more or less clear. And so in this, now I would like to speak about the areas of smart factory or Industry 4.0 that can be covered, that are basically all phases of product development, starting from demand forecasting, so which materials you need in your inventory, and moving on to the process development, product development, cost optimization, quality assurance, sustainability. All of the topics can be covered by automatization, by data analysis. So this can be fully automatized. Let me start, for example, with the demand forecasting. So for a lot of manufacturers, having inventory on hand is a very, very important factor, because if they don't have a material in their factory, they cannot start production. And just-in-time manufacturing based on tight timelines, this is a very important term. So machine learning and data science can support manufacturers with forecasting when they will start production based on the historian data. Then let me move to predictive analytics that is already very widely used in the industry. So imagine you have a production line. Very often in a production line, production is depending on one important step. And if this machine is for the moment not working, failing because some part, some component broke, then basically a manufacturer cannot produce. So this predictive analytics helps to predict the moment when this machine will fail, based on, again, historical data of the temperature, of the vibration. It can measure, for example, if some part rotates, when the vibration changes, the component is about to break. So you can take care of it in time and order parts to be able to repair the machine immediately. This topic is widely covered on the market. There are a lot of already companies that offer solution in this area. Then when it comes to new product development, this topic is very much connected with the customization topic. So imagine when the customer comes to you and says, okay, I would like to have a product that's very similar to the product that you've been producing for the moment, but this feature should be different. Like the size of this element should be a little bit different. Like usually, you should manually analyze your products, and some people responsible for the processes will design a process. You need to run tests based on experience of your employees. This is of course very valuable, but can take a lot of time. So if you could analyze the processes, all of the parameters that you've been using so far automatically with machine learning tools, you could come up with a set of parameters, proposed set of parameters that is already could be working. Still, you might want to run some tests, but you can like shorten the time to deliver to the product to the customer. Last but not least, let me mention the topic of sustainability of the factory. So a lot of manufacturers are concerned about the energy, the saving of the energy, or reducing the carbon footprint, reducing the water use in your factory. I mean, of course, it's mostly because of the cost. I mean, if you reduce energy, then you reduce the cost. But I think the environmental factor to the data science used in a factory should not be like underestimated. The data science can help to reduce the use of resources by the factory. And this is very, very important factor. For the future, I think this is even essential part. Okay, so here I mentioned some of the factors that can be used, that Industry 4.0 has applicances. I hope that, I mean, these are not all definitely, but it's a choice. So if you have any question after this, like how exactly you can use data science tools, then please come back to me. Okay, so now that I presented you what are the amazing uses of data science, I would like to give you some motivation, some more motivation, but also present you some challenges. So first of all, according to the studies, like for example, International Data Corporation study from 2009, there's been a huge amount of data that is collected by the machines nowadays already. The machines are being modern, they are equipped with sensors, they are collecting data about many different parameters of itself and of the product as well. So the evaluation of this study is that the value of this data in dollars can be even $3.7 trillion by 2025. However, only 0.5% of this data is being actually evaluated. So it's actually a shame that so many information gets lost and not being included into decision-making process. Like, of course, not all of this data is useful. Like I will be mentioning it, that you should not collect all of the data. You should clearly consider which data you collect. But 0.5% is definitely not enough. And the solution to the reason for this can be given, can be proposed, like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology assessed that 64% of companies claim that they miss personnel and workforce to value this data, maybe even know-how. So having this picture in mind, I would like to say to you that even if you did not introduce Industry 4.0 solutions to your company yet, please do not worry, because according to the same study, about 50% of the companies are still in the evaluation of planning phase. This is the study from German market, but I think it's very representative for a lot of other markets. However, bear in mind that 30% of the companies already introduced and implemented Industry 4.0 solutions. So you can clearly see the pattern here. So this is the future. So don't worry if you didn't introduce any solution yet, but think about it, strongly consider, and I will give you, as I mentioned, a good strategy to start. One more motivational slide for you about the benefits of Industry 4.0. According to the study of Cisco, which is the company that has dealt a lot with the topic Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things, says that customer satisfaction can be improved by 70% by introducing Industry 4.0 solution. Lea, I saw that two members raised the hand.
Yes, I wrote, dear all, please, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box.
Okay.
So feel free to write us and select all panelists and all entities.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so especially the point customer satisfaction is very important, because according to the questionnaires that have been conducted in the Corona time, a lot of companies are actually afraid of losing customers now. So increasing customer satisfaction is crucial to keeping the customers. The same, and it's really a huge amount. The operational efficiency can be increased, the service quality by automatizing, by utilizing more data. So why make guest decisions when you can make your managerial decision by data? So really, I would like to motivate you. And also, if these softer factors are not enough, then I would like to say that you can also reduce cost. I mean, especially predictive maintenance that have been measured and tested already a lot, says that you can, like McKinsey company says that you reduce your maintenance cost by 40%. You reduce the energy use, and you reduce the downtime of machines by 50%. So imagine how you can optimize your production by utilizing the data. And this is just predictive maintenance. I didn't mention here the other factors that I was saying you from the previous slide. But of course, there are some challenges and some risks of Industry 4.0 that I would, of course, like to mention. Like, first of all, by utilizing and storing data, you of course should take care about data security. Like hackers can, if you don't encrypt your data in a proper way, hackers can use your data for industry spying or for using it for other purposes. So please think about it. Also, I will mention on one of the next slide that there are different elements of Industry 4.0, and I already mentioned machine-to-machine communication. So communication standards, there are many different communication standards and norms. So one aim for the industry is to agree for one norm and standard, because this can be of an issue. However, for introduction of Industry 4.0, you might not encounter these problems, because you might start in small chunks or phases of introduction. So this make it a little bit more easy for you. And one more important, very important factor that I will be actually So mentioning throughout the whole presentation is please include your employees in the decision-making process. Because one challenge is that the employees are afraid that that their working environment will change fast, will have to adjust. They are afraid of losing their jobs because a lot of tasks can be taken by the machines. So please make sure that you also take care of this problem, that you communicate properly. I will also give you some solution to this issue. Yes, so one more time, I would like to mention that if you have some questions, please write them in the chat, and I will try to answer all of them later. Okay, so now I would like to move on to the strategy that I propose to you based on my cooperation so far, based on the information that I have, to introduce Industry 4.0 to your company. So first, and I already mentioned this, and I will be mentioning it all the time, please define the stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean people that are involved by the Industry 4.0 strategy. And this can be internal stakeholders, your employees, the project manager, the project responsible, but also user, the machine user. Please ask them what they need, which information would help them, how they will explain them, how they will interact with the machine. I mean, it's quite crucial and to start actually with, because they will be the one using the new technology. They will be the one dealing with it every day. So I think the risk not to involve your employees into the process is just too high to oversee it. And I saw it many, many times. So the best strategy here is to invite them to meetings, to ask them what they need, to explain them how they will in the future, how their role will change. They will not be maybe having so many automatized tasks or mechanical tasks that have been using so far, but they will be still interacting with the machine as a manager, as a controller. Did the machine take the right decision? How are the data using? What to do next? Their role will change drastically. That's why it's quite crucial. Then there are also, of course, external stakeholders that you might want to involve in the decision process. There are your customers, there are your suppliers. Yes, there might be your investors as well. These are very important. This is a very important part. As a next step, I propose you to classify your company. Where are you on the Industry 4.0 level? On one of the next slides, I will give you a quantitative way to classify your company when it comes to Industry 4.0 fulfillment level, because only if you know where you are, you know which solution you can apply, or even which goal you want to pursue. Because here the third step, and it's quite crucial, so please don't miss it neither. Define the goal, what you want to achieve with the Industry 4.0 strategy and with data science strategy. So the worst that you can do is to go and stick the sensors to every machine without thinking about which data you want to evaluate later, which processes you want to optimize. Like, do you want to improve on time delivery? There are many, many factors, hard factors, that you might want to define here as a goal, like the cycle time of your process, like the effectiveness of your process, like the yield that you are having, the scrap that you are producing during your production process. These are the hard facts that you can define, because you should also evaluate the risks and the cost that you will be having. So in my opinion, Industry 4.0 should be taken as an investment. So you define your budget, you define your goals, you define your cost, and only if you see that the critical mass is achieved, so that you really is worth for you to pursue Industry 4.0 solution, go for it. If not, then it's better to wait, because you might have bad experience and not achieve your aim. So this is quite a crucial factor. And then the last part is, and I will give you also solution for this later, is my proposal is to start in small phases. So one of the reasons why some of the factories are afraid to start Industry 4.0 is because they think that they will have to change their whole production line, the production will stop, they will lose time. So this risk can be minimized by introducing Industry 4.0 in small phases. Maybe think about a process that can be easily automatized, some machine that already collects data that you can start evaluating those data, and there already try in this part of production, in this phase, to apply the solutions. So please bear in mind this slide, because I have the impression that a lot of people are speaking about Industry 4.0, but not a lot of people, not a lot of companies are doing something, because everybody is afraid. There are a lot of different terms that are going around, but nobody really wants to take the risk. So I think by using this beginner strategy, or even the strategy is important if you already have Industry 4.0 solution. In case you, for example, didn't define your goal yet, please do it as far as possible and involve the stakeholders, because the risk of doing Industry 4.0 in isolation without your company, without your employees, can result in skepticism of them. So I think by starting like this, you minimize the risk quite a lot. So now let me move to my proposal, how to evaluate your current status in the Industry 4.0 solution. But to start, I would like to give you some overview over the architecture of Industry 4.0. So these terms were mostly introduced by the company Cisco that I already mentioned. First of all, Industry 4.0 is, as I already mentioned, a network of machines. And the proposal is that it's decentralized. So each machine is equipped with sensors, can make its own decisions. So this part of the network is called the edge, like because it's on the edge. What's interesting part of this is that because there's such a huge amount of data that's being collected at the edge, not all of the data have to be transmitted to the further steps. Some decisions can be made by the machines, by the smart devices autonomously based on the data, based on the algorithms that you provide to the so-called edge computing. And only if the edge decides that cannot make the decision, that the data is valuable and have to be stored long term, the data is transmitted to the next step, which is the fog, which is basically the decision is made through the Internet of Things gateway. The term fog, this approach of edge computing is a decentralized approach. So you don't have, like, for the moment, the central unit that make all of the decision. And then you put all of the data that you want to really evaluate into the fog, which is already the next step. It has the data from more than one machine. And then again, it evaluates the data that it needs, and the data that cannot evaluate or that has to be stored is being transmitted to the next step, which is enterprise, which is cloud computing, basically. So you, of course, because cloud has some cost, because you have some streaming time, you are actually interested in storing your data as near to the machine as possible. That's why edge computing and fog computing have so many advantages in comparison to cloud computing, where you have also some storage cost, significantly actually. So you really might want to decide which data you really need. Mostly here you are in the step of long-term decision making. So these are the managerial decisions that you would like to have the overview over your production, how many products you've been producing, where are the bottlenecks of your production. And then you could, for example, go to your process responsible and say, hey, could you please see how this machine is working, because I see that during the last 3 months we have always been having problems there, or significantly our time cycle is dropping. So here is basically already for strategic solutions. This part is responsible for strategic solution, whereas this part is rather responsible for short-term decision. That this data can be even presented to the employee. So this is exactly the point that I've been mentioning before. Like, the employee is at the machine and can support the machine with the decision making, but also the machine with its algorithm supports the employee. So this is huge interaction between the machine and the employee, actually, in all of those steps nearly. Here, as I already promised, I would like to give you... Yes?
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes?
There is a question from the audience.
Yes?
And is it possible to give an example to illustrate edge, fog, and enterprise?
So edge solutions are the edge computing is near to the machine. So basically, I will also give you an example of an edge later, as there are already products that provide both sensors and computing units. So this is basically near to the machine computing. And then you have the gateway in between. You decide which data you want to actually store, and you have the fog computing, which collects the data from more than one machine. So this is like another level of computing, whereas this is already usually takes place like in the cloud. So there are many products on the market for this. And I will actually give you an example of product that already have included edge computing solutions and platform, and also fog platforms in one of the next slides. And then I hope that I can clarify this question further. If not, then please come back to this. Okay, so now let me move on to the way to classify your company, where you are in your journey, when it comes to edge, when it comes to fog and enterprise solution. So I would propose to take the very pragmatic approach. There are some parameters that you can define here. I gave here some examples, but please don't hesitate to come back to me or to maybe other Malt consultants if they deal with it. Here I propose you some, like for the edge, would be the level of automation of your machines. You can easily evaluate in percentage What's the level of automation? Here the saving factor, like how many data that are produced by your machines you are already saving. So this is like really hard factors that you can define here, and at the end evaluate where are you on the journey to the complete edge like fulfillment. The same you can do like for the fog and for the enterprise. Like in an example for an enterprise, you can think of how many data you actually already evaluate. How many data are missing for the decisions. And usually what I want to mention is that the best scenario would be for a company to take care of the 100% of edge coverage, but of course you might want to think also about the solutions for the next steps already before achieving here 100% of edge coverage. So this is just an exemplary graph that I created. I think for each company this will be different, but it's a very like quantitative approach that you can take to evaluate where are you on your journey and what can be the next steps. Okay, so now I will move to the solutions, my proposal of the solutions. And first of all, because as I already mentioned, a lot of companies are being bothered by the Industry 4.0 and being afraid that they will have to stop all of their production to introduce Industry 4.0 solutions. But actually, there are as well some training modules, like this one is from a company, German company called Festo, that is a mini production line that contains a control unit, that contains a batch feeder. Here you can see hopefully the video, that the product is being removed from the batch feeder here, is being put to the next module, where you can see here you have a visual inspection if the product is proper or not, and then it goes to the next station where another process step is made. So this is can be made modular. Like you can choose which modules you apply, and the data is being evaluated from each of those modules. So this is a very, very practical approach that's completely separated, or nearly completely separated, from your production line. What are the advantages of this approach? First of all, you introduce Industry 4.0 culture into your company. The employees, the second is the employees can learn Industry 4.0 automatization on this easy way. You don't interrupt your production line. And here you can also in an easy way test your solutions without having to test them with your real production line to interrupt the processes actually. This is one example of the training modules. I'm sure there are another one on the market. You can choose, and you can write me if you have some other experiences about this topic.
Actually, there is an experience a viewer wanted to share.
Yes.
He says, the first problem I'm facing, that an Industry 4.0 project implementation took approximately 80% more time than a normal project. The second problem is the non-compatibility between the different markets, the different solutions of the market. The last one, the resistance to change inside companies make implementation harder than usual.
Okay, the topic of 80% of time, one second, so the first problem was that the project takes 80% of time, so quite a lot of time. The second is the incompatibility of the solutions, and the third is the resistance of the employees. So I've been already mentioning actually all of those topics. First of all, about the 80% of time, I think it's connected about the missing workforce. That I'm actually I will actually also come back to this topic soon. And the resistance of the employees, I actually already mentioned, the resistance of the employees is caused by not including them in the decision process. So I would suggest to start with asking them what are their needs, what solutions they can think of. I've been experiencing that mostly the employees are not included in the process. For the 80% of time, I will also give you a solution. Maybe you need some additional workforce. You know, if your employees are already busy with the normal work, I think it's really an exciting task to think that they might put some of their time. Of course, it's time-consuming process, but it's a one-time consuming process, and later you save actually time for your employees. So think about it. And the third aspect was the incompatibility of the solutions. Indeed, that is an issue. The norms and standards, and this I was already also mentioning in the slide, if you remember, there is an incompatibility of norms and standards for the moment. However, if you start small, and I was also mentioning this already in the slide of phases, if you start small, you don't have to introduce like the whole solution at once. Start small, and then you will not have all those communication problems. But the standards definitely is an issue, which is also connected by the missing workforce. So you might want to hire a person for this. I have to be honest. You maybe cannot do it with all of your employees. I have to be honest, it's a different topic. It requires know-how. You have to think, if especially now with Corona, if you have the workforce or not. I'm actually giving this, so you actually already started the question that's on one, you went into the future, and it's on one of my next slides. This topic is as well covered. So thank you very much for this remark. Okay, so allow me to go to the next slide. Maybe on the Zoom I don't have the same interaction with the audience as I would have in a real meeting, but I hope that these questions cover for the moment. If you have any further question, contact me later after the presentation, and I will try to go to them into the detail, as now I'm giving just a really overview over the topic. So when it comes to edge solutions, I will remind you it was all about machines and sensors. Like a lot of companies are standing in front of the choice to buy new machine, because sometimes their production is not automatized yet. But of course, a new machine is a very, very huge investment, not only because of the money, but also because of training of employees, because you have to change the whole production line. So of course, one of the proposals to buy a new modern machines that is equipped with sensor, but there is also possibility to retrofit a machine which is so-called, which is an upgrading of the machine to meet the Industry 4.0 requirements. So the advantages of retrofit in comparison to buying a new machine is you save investment cost and you have less training cost for the employees because you use machine that they already know. However, if you are thinking of buying a new machine anyway, then of course, please, again, strategically think which data you want to cover, which producer you want. But this I'm sure that you are already doing anyway, so I don't want to go into details to this topic. But retrofit, you have, again, in the structure, you have few possibilities. You can make your own retrofit solution from the scratch, or you can buy a ready solution. So to make a retrofit solution has advantages because you train your employees. Your employees have to develop a module themselves. I have to look a little bit of the time, but I think I will make it. So the retrofit solution is basically installing sensors into your machine. Again, you strategically think which data you would like to collect, but sensors needs also a receiver, needs a sender, needs a power source, and needs a sensor control unit. So this is so-called wireless network sensor network. This you can use your employees if you have some workforce, and I assume from the questions that you might be missing employees for this. So here I would like to give you some solution to save your workforce. So first of all, you can ask a machine provider if they have some possibility to retrofit or already some ready modules that are compatible with your machine like upgrade your machine for Industry 4.0. Then you can also buy a ready solution from providers. Here I present you some 3 companies that I've encountered so far, that I actually was speaking about them already, that they provide modules to upgrade your machines. So for example, Axon Predict is mainly for predictive maintenance, but it provides pattern and anomaly detection, and the action gets automatically executed. So this is the example that I was mentioning before. This already contains edge analytics and edge computing. Like, this is not only sensors, but also a platform that actually makes a decision. Then there is another company from Germany, Sensory, that they provide you a flexible, customizable solution that already connects multiple standards. So because there was these questions about the standards, of course you need to see which standards and norms, how compatible the solution that you apply are with each other. I agree, this is an issue, and I saw the industry is already struggling on this, together with introduction of 5G communication standards. Maybe this will improve, and I believe this is the future. Everybody's aware of this problem. For the moment, I cannot give you another solution than thinking about it strategically, which I think already is a big help. And then there is a very, very interesting company. It's called Lemberg Solutions. It's from Ukraine, and it's actually an engineering consulting company that's providing both software and hardware ready solution. They already have a lot of experience on the market with providing you a fantastic solution. So please take care. But of course, for you, you have to make a make or buy decision. So please evaluate all of the factors that I've been mentioning already if you want to teach your employees, if you have actually the workforce. For the make solution, you will need a lot of components. You will need to think of data security, which, for example, Sensory provides you already data encryption solutions. So maybe you want, of course, the cost of the whole solution, because you need to think strategically. Don't introduce it spontaneously. I would recommend to really think, communicate with your employees, exchange experiences with other companies. This is quite important. Then for the fog network, maybe I will just mention shortly that it is, here I mean also database management system. I want to mention there is already a lot of data that is available in your company. There are historical data that are spread in some Excel spreadsheets, in some notes of your employees. Even manuals of the machines can be a huge source of data. Some enterprise resource planning systems. So I think here also a huge challenge is to, I mean, those data are not in a digital form. So you might want to go and apply your data, store your data in a database, think of some suitable database for you. And very important factor is that you need clear data. You need to think that The data might contain some mistakes, like how to clear the data, because if you have the data that you don't need, well, that might be, that is rather like a drawback than an advantage. And then last but not least, the factor of data analysis. So this is like this higher level, highest level, the entrepreneurial level, where you, for your manager or for product responsible, you might want to present dashboards, reports, or predictions, because you want to make your decision data, a long-term decision based on data, strategically, to ensure also customer satisfaction and like reducing downtime of the machine, or whichever goal you set at the beginning. You may adjust the dashboards to meet your standards, to meet the needs that you are and the goals that you are having. So one topic that I want to mention here, that is a research topic, because all of those data that I've been, topics that I've been mentioning so far are already applied. But here I would like to mention one very interesting research topic that is basically applied only by the big companies now, but in my opinion can be also applied by small and medium enterprises. Is a topic of digital threat. A digital threat is basically applying collection of all of the data from the whole product development cycle, like design, process development, and tests, in order to make easier predictions about the new processes, to innovate better, to improve the effectiveness of the data. And you can apply machine learning modules for this. Actually, it's one of my biggest topics. So if you would like, as a company, to have prototype on this, I can help you with this, help you to digitalize your data. I'm sure you already have a lot of information, useful information, that you might want to use in the decision-making process to improve your products. One confusion that I've noticed here is between digital twin and digital thread. So digital twin is considered a 3D or 2D representation of your whole process or even factory. So here is a lot of confusion. A lot of companies think that they don't need it. I can agree with it, but I think digital thread, like the use of all of your data to make prediction, to use machine learning algorithms on this, is definitely a future to support your employees. And last but not least, because there was also a question about this 80% of time that projects require, and already I was mentioning this, you might want to employ some people for this. If you have educational department, of course, use your young employees that maybe would like to learn some solutions. But if you don't want to hire a person first, you want to try out first, if Industry 4.0 is for you, do not hesitate to hire a consultant. Like, for example, on Malt platform, there is a lot of consultants that offer this solution. You may try out if these solutions are for you, what works for you, what doesn't work, before actually making an experienced hire. So like the risk of it and the cost, like, have boundaries, but I can totally understand that if your employees are already busy with the day-to-day life, you don't put to them additional tasks, but you should involve them still. I mean, if it's 80% of time, you still can have some time to involve them, and it's crucial. I will also mention it. Okay, so as a summary, I would like to give you you an input that actually for each company you can define a decision tree, like what are the steps that you should include into your strategic steps that you should include into your decision-making process. And first think about the strategy and then go to solutions. So this is quite crucial. And one more time, an important remark, involve your employees. Please understand, they are afraid of it. Their work will change. They are even afraid that they will lose their jobs. And actually, there are already studies from MIT that actually automatization might reduce job positions. So these worries are actually grounded. However, they will have a possibility to learn new skills. They will become a manager of a machine. And at this point, I would like to mention one thing, that the algorithms for the machines, they are not free of errors. So it's highly needed that an employee, that the user of the machine controls the machine. So for some of the employees, this might be a motivation that they will be just switching the role. But I really think that the human nature is like, if you give the people the choice, they will be more willingly to cooperate with you. I highly recommend this approach. And they might also give you some important insights about which data to collect for the machines. As I already mentioned, they are working every day with the machine. So, as I said, if you have any further questions, yes?
There is actually one. Do you have an example, a practical example on how blockchain can improve industrial processes, except smart contracts, which is used for logistics?
Blockchain, it's already a higher level of communication. Blockchain is a communication that ensures the encryption. Actually, there are some startups. For the moment, I don't have a name for you, but there are startups that deal with blockchain. I'm not sure if there are any for production. So if not, then that might be a good idea to found a startup, blockchain security channels for production. But this data encryption, I was already mentioning that security is a huge issue for this topic. And if blockchain could secure the data communication, then actually this would be amazing. So I can try to find some startups, some companies that deal with blockchain security for communication in manufacturing. So please contact me here. I'm also on Malt. I'm also on LinkedIn. Here you have my phone number, my email. Please contact me and I will provide you with blockchain solution for manufacturing in case there are any. But thank you very much for this question. If this is of interest, I definitely would like to know about this and include this in some other more detailed presentation.
And there is another question incoming. Could you please clarify more the aim of digital thread twin?
Okay, so basically this is an application of machine learning solutions. So data analysis solution basically deals with presentation of the data from the past. And machine learning solution, like for example a neural network, can analyze the process as you have. For example, if you have a process that you know with these parameters was working, with the temperature in this range, with the pressure in this range, for each of the machine, you have a given process range that was working well. And your customer comes and says, I want a slightly different product. And usually you need to experiment, you need to go on and experiment. But the digital thread is a data collection of all of your processes that you can apply a machine learning project, and you can reduce your range of parameters to, for example, in the first step of your process, you have the temperature range that you might apply between 60 and 70 degrees. In the second step, you have, for example, the temperature range between 100 and 110 degrees. So this is like, you can understand this is a huge amount of data for your process, and you might have many different process responsible that are involved. And by applying machine learning algorithms on this, which is the digital thread is a data collection that you can apply machine algorithm on this, you might reduce the time for introducing new product to the market. You might reduce the time of tests, and in general also make your process more effective. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I actually deal with this topic, and I'm providing a prototype for this. So really, please contact me. But for this, you might want to have already some data collected. And I might also help you on the data collection or digitalizing your data. In this way, you can really leverage your data and apply machine learning algorithms. So maybe it's a little bit outside of the scope of this presentation, as I said, is a research and advanced topic. But very interesting question, and yeah, thank you for this. And